Hey guys, welcome to today's video. I got to be honest with you, I'm really excited about sharing this with you guys today because ever since about midsummer when I kind of saw what was happening with these green giant arborvitas, I thought this is going to be a great experiment to show you guys once winter gets here. Well, it's finally gotten winter. It's a cold day today. It's a rainy day today. It's 50, 52 degrees, something like that, and raining and on and off, and we just came out to show you guys how these green giants have done that we propagated this year and what's the difference between these results and these results. It's an important thing to notice, so looking forward to sharing this with y'all today. Now, the way that I propagate green giant arborvitas, I use something like a dish pan or some other kind of container. I've used a popcorn bowl to do this. You know, just drill holes in the bottom of it. I fill it up with sand or some other media that drains really well. And I put these under mist during the summer. And I've got videos on mist propagation and all of that. But this isn't really about propagation so much today as it is about the results of propagation. And you can see that tray there, and you can see this one here closer to me. And I really want to talk today about what the difference is in these two because it's notable. And I'm telling you guys, this is going to change everything going forward about how I think about propagating green giants as far as what time of year to do them and that sort of thing. So I want to dive into this pan right here first, and I want to see what they look like, see what kind of roots they have, and talk about that a little bit as I go, and then contrast this with these. And I'm going to tell you, I cannot wait to get into this pan over here. But before we get into this one, let's check out this one. Now, the way that I get these cuttings out of the pan, I don't just grab them and rip them out. You know, depending on what size they are, all their roots are tangled up with each other. So, you know, you kind of have to tease their roots out depending on how tangled they are. But you can kind of just take your dish pan like this and push it from the bottom. And you can't see that, but that's just kind of loosening up the whole tray. You kind of squeeze it in from the sides a little bit. I can see in here, there's a few leaves that have fallen in here. There's some dead cuttings in here. And, you know, just some trash in here from these sitting outside. But let's just pop them out of here and see what we have. This is always one of my favorite things to do in the nursery is, you know, it's kind of like the big reveal. It's kind of like, how did your cuttings do this year? And right off the bat, we can see, you know, just some that are dead. And I just don't worry too much about dead cuttings. You know, that's just one that didn't root. Well, we're going to just throw it away, and we're not going to worry about that at all. Now, here's one that did root. So there's just the first example that I've pulled out of a cutting that has rooted, and it's got nice roots, and we'll pot that up, and that will turn into a nice plant. So I want to just start working through this pile and just kind of pulling out the cuttings. Now, see, some of these are nice and green with no roots, and you know, we can probably pot these. There's a couple of them. This is kind of weird when this happens, but you can probably take those and pot them, and they'll be fine because for whatever reason they have survived summer all the way into the fall with no roots. So pretty interesting thing. I don't really know what to tell you, but I'm going to set those aside. See, when they're not going to survive, they turn like that, and that one obviously is dead with, you know, no chance of making it. So there's something different about these two, despite the fact that neither one of them have roots. So if you guys can explain that to me better than I'm explaining it to you, feel free to tell me what's going on with that. But those were stuck in the under the mist at the same time this summer around July the 1st, and neither have roots, but one is completely dead and the other one looks like this. You tell me what's going on with that. And I'll just continue picking through the pile here, just kind of shaking these out. That one's got some nice roots, and most of these are going to have roots. So, you know, you got dead ones. You got another one of these, a non-rooted green one. Don't know what to call it, but we're going to keep it. Just kind of see their roots developing. Now, the process that I use for these, I put these under mist in the summer. And once I think they're developing roots, I will sprinkle into the pan about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more or less, of slow-release fertilizer, and that's all the nutrients they get. But that slow-release fertilizer, I've talked with you guys about that a lot. It's a really good fertilizer. So they don't require anything beyond that. So I'm getting a few more here, rooted pretty well. And you know, when you do these under mist, these green giants. And like I said, I started these around July the 1st. I don't know exactly what the date was. The reality is I needed to start these probably a month sooner than I did. I just didn't have time to get to it. So I got to them when I could, and you know, around early July was fine, but they root somewhat slow. I mean, it probably takes them around 6 weeks to start developing roots. I don't know for sure, but about 6 weeks. So, you know, that's going to put these, let's say, somewhere around mid-August before they're rooted well. Well, think about what time of year that is, mid-August. You know, we're at that point kind of, you know, you got 6 weeks or so left in your growing season, maybe 8 weeks left in your growing season before your weather starts changing, and these just don't have a lot of time to get roots and get a real thick, heavy root ball on them when you wait until July to get started with them. So, you know, despite that, we've got lots of plants. That's a really nice little plant right there. We've got really nice roots on a lot of these plants. I'm real happy about the percentages of them. I mean, there's a few that are dead. I've probably picked out, I don't know, 6 or 8 dead ones so far. And, you know, some of these that don't have roots at all, they may die too. And I get it. But, you know, I don't know how that stays that green that long with no roots. So, I don't know. Like I said, we're going to keep it and we'll see. But, you know, just a few dead ones to pick out. But this is what you can expect, you know, when you do your propagation of green giants, you know, say starting in the summer. So they've done pretty well, pretty good numbers. Every single one of these makes me happy that I pull out of here and it's got roots. And I don't care if the roots are tiny. I'm thrilled to see them. So, you know, it makes setting up the propagation system and all the time and effort that it takes to propagate, it makes all of that worth it when you see all these little baby plants coming out with some degree, even a little bitty one like that, even with some degree of roots on it. All you need is a little bit. So, and they'll grow really well. So we'll keep pulling the rest of these out of here, then we'll see how many we have and we'll go from there. All right, we pulled all of these out and sorted these, and you know, there's 51 of these rooted cuttings that turned out nice. And then there's 13 of these that have no roots, but for whatever reason are green. And I'm going to pot these separately and kind of do a separate experiment with them and just see if they grow or not. I don't know what they're going to do, but they don't look dead, but I don't know. They just don't look right to me. But at least 51 rooted cuttings that we got out of that one pan, so I'm pretty happy with that. So now I want to take that, put it aside, and I want to dive in here to this pan. And I want to talk about this pan and talk about what the difference is between that pan and this pan is, and what I've discovered and how this is going to change things for me going forward. All right, I took those cuttings from pan number 1 and healed them right back into where they were, and they'll be easy to just pluck out in a pile and pot them whenever we're ready to do that. And this is the second pan. And guys, I got to tell you, these are probably going to be hard to get out of here. Their roots are going to be really tangled up, but listen, somebody has voiced a bunch of concern about this to me before, about how not to do this because of the mess that the roots are going to be in. But two things. Number one, arbor vitae roots, they don't get tangled up with each other in this sand near as bad as some other varieties of plants do. So you can plant or root a whole bunch of arbor vitaes in this small dish pan like this, and you can get them out reasonably well. Now, I've not ever seen any that were near this big, so I may have to eat my words here in just a minute. But I want to get these out of here and talk a little bit about why I think these are so big and so nice. And it's not because they're a whole lot older. Now let's take this pan and we'll do just like we did with the other. We'll try to loosen it up a little bit. Push on the bottom, push on the sides, and maybe put it on the edge of the table. That may help some. And then we can just kind of get them out of here. Now, that's going to be a pretty impressive pile of plants there, and you can already see the roots are coming out of it, all out of the bottom. But a couple of things just already right off the bat here is how green everything is and the lack of dead ones that's in there. I mean, I can look right down the very first line here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's not a single dead one in that first row. Well, that gets me excited. It makes me think there's going to be a whole bunch of really nice plants in here. So I'm going to kind of just start teasing these out of here. I'm just going to kind of grab them and shake them, and you just got to kind of stick your hands under there and shake the whole pile, and it just kind of starts falling apart. Like, let's see if any of these will come out yet. Like, here's one right here that just slipped right out. Now, I think that's probably a pretty good example of what we're going to have. You can see where it was cut right there. That would have been the top of the cutting, and they've grown that much. That's a really nice cutting. So let's just keep going and see what we have. Now, when you're propagating green giants or anything else for that matter, there's always some inconsistency in the product. I mean, some plants have small roots, some have really big ones, small tops, large tops, and these are no different. But I was really pleased with the overall size of these. Here's an example of the tiniest one in the bunch, and here's an example of, you know, really about the average one to the largest. Now, listen, you can just shake these things, all right? As you saw, I'm not having any trouble getting these out at all. You know, they are a little tangled, which is fine and expected, but there's no problem to get these out. And listen, guys, here's the thing. Here's the big thing that I want y'all to know about this, is that I actually stuck these cuttings last winter, and I don't remember what month exactly. It was either January or February, but just sometime before it got warm, you know, in March and April for us, I stuck these in the winter. And you can stick them anytime in the winter. You can do them November, December, January, February. It doesn't matter. It seems to me like maybe it would be a little bit better if you waited till later in the winter, just so they're not detached from their parent plant any longer than they have to be. But I honestly don't really know if that matters. But that being said, the only difference between this pan of these, I mean, look at this. Let me get this one out. Look at this cutting right here. Oh, I can't even get it out now. There's some of these huge cuttings, and the ones from the previous pan is that these were started in, let's just say, February, and the others were started in July. Now, these that were started in February wouldn't have even started growing until probably, you know, May or something like that. But what I'm saying is that my attention on propagating green giants big time is going to turn to wintertime hardwood propagation. I'm not saying I'm not going to do them in the summer anymore, but I'm going to be trying a lot harder with a lot more focus on getting these things stuck during the winter for sure. And you guys can look at the results here and see the reasons why. The good thing is that I have 4 pans, 3 more pans, 4 total of these size. And I've got like 20 pans or more of the other size, which means there's a lot of them with roots, and they're fine. They're just so much smaller. But these huge cuttings like this, I'm going to pot these up, and these things are going to be ready to sell next spring. So you're talking about a total turnaround time of, let's just say, February to the following May. So 15 or 16 months from the time you cut the thing off of its parent plant until the time you can sell it. For a lot of these is going to be 16 months. And for a lot of the others, give them about 3 more months towards the end of the summer or early fall, and they're going to be ready too. So I may have just found a way to save myself, you know, 8 to 10 to 12 months on turning these things around. And in the nursery world, timing like that is everything. So I can't even tell y'all how excited I am about this. Let's count these and see how many we got out of this pan. All right, I've teased all of them out, got all the cuttings out of here. I haven't touched this. This is just my sand rooting media that I use, and you can see a bunch of little scrap roots, and those just break off, and that's no issue at all. It's just part of it. I have not seen a single dead cutting in here. I didn't have a single cutting that didn't have roots. Some of them had very small roots. A few did, probably 10, maybe 15% of them had very small roots, but there is not a single cutting. Look at that. There is not a single dead cutting in that entire pan. I can tell you guys, I've never done that before. I've never done an entire pan of green giants before without having some dead ones in it. So at least in that first pan, 100% of those rooted as hardwood cuttings. So seems like a pretty good thing to me. All right, folks, 72 rooted cuttings from one pan, and this is like a, you know, a 12 by 12 or a 14 by 12 dish pan. So couldn't be happier with that. Like I said, we've got 3 more pans like this that have these big, huge cuttings in them, and they look just like that one did from, you know, just glancing at them. So I mean, guys, I'm over the moon excited about this. This is one of those things where working in your nursery, you know, sometimes things don't work out as well as you wanted them to, or something costs more than you thought it would, or it took longer than you thought it would, or it's harder work than you wanted it to be. And sometimes you stumble upon something like this, and I knew that you could root these as hardwoods or under mist, but I had no idea you could get them this size in one growing season from hardwood cuttings, and I'm sold that this is the way forward for us. Well, all right, guys, all we did is I just took all those and just bundled them all up, and I just put them in a couple of pots. We call that healing in, and it's just a temporary holding spot until I can get them potted. But listen, guys, here's the deal that I'm excited to say is that we got a lot of potting to do between now and spring, and it just starts with these green giants because we got all kinds of other plants to do as well. And obviously, a lot of these will need to be grown out through a whole nother year, which is fine. Part of being a nursery is growing plants, and some of these are going to be ready to sell real quick, and we're real happy about that. But what this means going forward for our nursery, I'm super, super excited about. Anytime you find a better way to do anything is a good thing. So we're going to count that as a huge blessing and a huge win today and this season and going forward. So guys, let me just wrap this up today by saying I love y'all. I appreciate you watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.